Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen may not be making many public appearances these days, but the twins still show up when it matters most. The famously private sisters showing up to support their older brother Trent Olsen as he tied the knot with Alexis Arminstead in the Hollywood Hills.
They showed up, Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, at their brother's wedding in the Hollywood Hills, and the internet lost its mind, not because of what they wore, not because of who they brought, but because they were there at all. These two women, you know them. You grew up with them. Michelle Tanner on Full House. Every girl wanted to be them. Every boy wanted to date them. They were America's sweethearts. And then they vanished. Not died. Not retired. They just stopped. Walked away from a billion-dollar empire. From Hollywood. From the fame that most people would kill for. And nobody ever gave us the real reason why. Until now. And look, you already know what I'm about to say. You felt it for years. There's something off about that town. About the way they chew up children and spit them out. You know, just like I know. We've all seen it happen. Child star after child star. Broken. Addicted. Gone. But the Olsens, they got out. Rich. Successful. And they never said a word. They just left. But here's the thing though. They didn't just leave. They ran. And I don't use that word lightly. Let me take you back. Because the timeline matters. And I need you to stay with me here. In 2012, Mary-Kate and Ashley officially stepped away from acting. Their last film together was The New York Minute back in 2004, but they were still producing, still attached to projects, still technically or in the business. Then the work stopped. Completely. No announcement. No farewell interview. No tearful goodbye on a talk show couch. They just evaporated. And at the time, the media told you it was a choice, a power move. They wanted to focus on fashion. They just launched the Row in 2006. High-end. Minimalist. Critically acclaimed, it made sense. You could buy that story. I could buy that story. It was neat. Clean. Boring. And that's exactly what they wanted you to think. But think about this. Think about who they were. They were 9 months old when they started acting. 9 months. Before they could walk. Before they could talk. They were handed over to Hollywood before they even knew what the word meant. And they worked. Constantly. Relentlessly. On a set with adults. With cameras. With lights. With people whose only job was to get the perfect take. Not to protect them. Not to nurture them. To use them. And you know what happens to kids like that. You've seen the documentaries. The exposés. The stories that come out decades too late. But here's what they don't tell you. Here's the part that got buried. Mary-Kate and Ashley didn't just burn out. They didn't just get tired of the grind. They saw something. And I really believe this. They saw something that made them run. Now, I'm going to say some names. And these names matter. Because if you want to understand why they disappeared, you have to understand the ecosystem they were born into. This wasn't just a TV show. Full House was a machine. Produced by Warner Bros. Backed by ABC. And in the 1980s and 90s, that machine was run by men who had power, men who had access, men who looked at child actors the way you'd look at a contract. And there were others, people behind the scenes, agents, managers, executive, people like Gary Marsh and Fred Silverman and Michael Jacobs. These are the names that ran the shows. They controlled the auditions. They controlled the money. They controlled everything. And I'm not saying any of these specific men did anything illegal. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that the system itself was the predator. It created a culture where children were assets, where their safety was secondary, where their emotional well-being was never the priority. And the Olsens, they lived inside that culture from infancy. They grew up in a world where the word no was never spoken to adults. Not by them, not by anyone. She said, actually, let me rephrase that. They've never said it publicly, not once, not in any interview, not in any book, but the silence itself is louder than any confession. You know what they did instead? They built an empire. The Row is worth over $1 billion. $1 billion. They started it when they were 20. They designed it. They managed it. They ran it with zero help from the Hollywood machine. And they protected it. Protected themselves. Protected each other. Because in that world, the only person you can truly trust is the person who grew up in the same hell you did. And this is the part nobody talks about. The wedding. That recent wedding, June 26th, Hollywood Hills. Their brother Trent married Alexis Arminstead, and the photos came out, the whole family together. Elizabeth Olsen, the famous sister. Ashley's husband, Louis Eisner. And Mary-Kate and Ashley, standing there, smiling, unified. But why now? Why show up now? After all these years of hiding, of avoiding cameras, of never giving the public anything, why break that silence for a wedding? Because it wasn't just a wedding. It was a statement. A very quiet, very deliberate statement. A message to the industry that said we're still here. We survived, and we're not alone. This was 2 months after they were photographed in Manhattan, April 30th. Lunch with a friend, coordinating dark ensembles, flashing smiles, 2 public outings in 1 year. That's more than they've done in the last 5 combined. Something is shifting. And you can feel it, that pull, that little voice telling you there's more to this story. And you're right, there is. You see, the Olsen twins aren't just celebrities, they're symbols. Symbols of what Hollywood takes from you, of what it steals, and the fact that they walked away unharmed, wealthy, successful. That's not just a victory. That's an anomaly. It's an exception. And exceptions don't happen by accident. Not an accident at all. And yet, the questions remain. Why didn't they ever speak out? Why didn't they warn others? Why didn't they use their platform to expose the darkness they surely saw? That's the question that keeps me up at night. Because if you really know what's going on behind those gates, and you stay silent, are you complicit? Are you just another part of the machine? Actually, wait, let me slow down here, because I want to be real with you for a second. I'm not here to judge them. I don't think any of us are. We don't know what they went through. We don't know what they saw. We weren't there. But I do know this. The silence is deafening. And for two women who have said almost nothing for 12 years, the fact that they're suddenly visible again, that means something. It means the story isn't over. Now, I want to connect this to something bigger, because if you think this is just about two child stars, you're missing the point. This is about all of them. The Macaulay Culkins, the Britney Spears, the Demi Lovato's, the Amanda Bynes. Every single one of them. They were all fed into the same machine, and the machine chewed them up. Most of them broke. Some of them died. But the Olsens, they didn't break. They built a fortress. And they never let anyone in. And here's the real question. The question we should all be asking. Who built the machine? Who profits from it? Who still runs it today? Because it hasn't stopped. Child actors are still being cast, still being exploited, still being thrown away when they age out. The agencies are still there. The networks are still there. The same power structures, the same secrecy, the same cover-ups. And the Olsens are proof that it's possible to escape, but they're also proof that even if you escape, the scars don't disappear. They just get hidden behind $1 billion fashion brand and a lifetime of silence. In 2019, Mary-Kate told British Vogue, "This is the way we chose to move forward in our lives, to not be in the spotlight, to really have something that speaks for itself." That's the quote. That's the only quote. 12 years of silence, and that's all they gave us. A gentle, polite, vague explanation that told us nothing. But here's what she didn't say. Here's what she couldn't say. She didn't mention the fear. She didn't mention the trauma. She didn't mention the sleepless nights or the therapy or the years of unlearning everything Hollywood taught her. She didn't mention the price. And she didn't mention the reason. Because there is a reason. There's always a reason. And it's not just about being tired of cameras. That's the story they sold you. The real story. The one they'll never tell in a magazine interview. That's the one that matters. And it's the one we're going to keep digging for. Because these two women, they were not just stars. They were legends. Legends who walked away. Legends who survived. Legends who are now, slowly, ever so slowly, starting to step back into the light. And the question you have to ask yourself is this. Why now? Why after all these years of total darkness are they letting the world see them again? Are they testing the water? Are they trying to tell us something? Or are they simply showing us that the system didn't win? I don't have the answer. Not yet. But I can promise you this. I'm not going to stop asking. And neither should you. Because they know, the people who ran those sets, those studios, those agencies, they know exactly what happened. And the Olsens know too. And one day, maybe soon, the truth is going to come out. And when it does, we'll all finally understand why Michelle Tanner's twin sisters disappeared. And you know what? I think we owe them that. Not just to know the truth, but to honor the fact that they survived, that they made it out. That they are standing there in that wedding photo, smiling, surrounded by family, looking at the camera like they've won. And in a way, they have. They're still here. They're still together. They're still free. So here's my question to you, and I want you to answer it in the comments. If you could ask Mary, Kate, and Ashley one question right now, what would it be? Because I think we all have something we need to hear them say. Now let me tell you something else. Something that's going to make you angry. I'm about to show you how the system still works. How it's still chewing up kids today, and how the Olsen silence may have actually been the most powerful move of all. Because by never speaking, by never breaking, by never letting the press have a single inch, they forced the world to look at them differently. They became untouchable. They became icons. They became the proof that you can escape Hollywood's grip. But that doesn't mean the grip is gone. It just means they slipped through it. And the rest of us, we're still watching, still waiting, still wondering what really happened behind those closed doors. And the reason for that, well, you'll see. Because the story doesn't end with a wedding photo. It ends with a question. The biggest question of all. Why don't the rich and powerful ever face justice? We've seen it again and again. Epstein, Cosby, Spacey. The list never ends. And yet, the system protects them. The lawyers, the publicists, the judges, the same names, the same faces, the same network of people who owe each other favors. And the Olsens, they saw it, they knew it, and they ran. That's not a conspiracy. That's not a theory. That's the pattern. And we all know it. We've all seen it. We've all lived it. So I want you to remember this. Every time you see a child star on your screen, every time you see a young face glowing under those lights, ask yourself, who's protecting them? Who's really watching out for them? Because Mary, Kate, and Ashley had each other. They had a twin, a built-in witness, a built-in protector, a built-in confidant. Not everyone gets that. Most kids are alone, and most kids don't make it out. But these two, they made it. And they have a story that's still being written, a story that's finally starting to start itself in the smallest of moments. A wedding, a lunch, a smile for photographers. And that story is far from over.